You don't have to be scared. Not at all, not really. Now, I've given you a statement which is true. I said, you don't have to be scared. Now, you can apply that to any situation of your life. You don't have to be afraid of the future. You don't have to be afraid of your own confusion. You don't have to be afraid of other people, and you're all terrified of other people, aren't you? Now, instead of me going on and listing them, and you could fill in the blanks for yourself, I'm going to tell you once more that you don't have to be scared of anything on this earth. Now, since that is a fact, I will ask you another question. Why are you terrified? And I don't want to use a mild term like scared or timid. I want to use the strongest word possible to describe your condition here in this world. You're not just scared. You're horrified. You're terrified. Anything can set you off. You lose a spouse. Or you lose a little bit of your money. Or someone says something unpleasant to you. Or you hear some terrible news on the television set on the 6 o'clock news. I want you to agree with me as a step in your self-honesty. I want you to agree with me that anything can set you off and make you frightened. Have you ever looked at the faces of people you meet in a crowd? Have you ever walked down the street? Simple, very simple. You walk down the street sometime or you're shopping somewhere and you look at the faces of people and you look at the gloom and you look at the uncertainty and you look at the terror and you look at the anger. And ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at a very pathetic world. Now that's the world. I want you to know tonight, as the gentleman said, that you've come into a very unique place here tonight. It is unique. It is unique if you want it to be. Now those of you who wandered in here, who are still very much in love with yourself and with all your present ways, then what we're going to say tonight will be of no interest to you. You will simply have to go on with your present terror, fear of everything that's going to happen to you in the future, and there'll be no change for you. As a matter of fact, I know from personal experience over many, many years that only a very few of you here in this room will ever get rid of even the smallest of fears. Because the rest of you, and tensions and stress, because the rest of you are so much in love with your present ways, and you listen to me, I hope it shocks you. You are so in love with yourself that God himself can do nothing with you, and therefore nothing for you. Now, you don't know who God is, by the way. I use the word. I have to use the word to give you some idea of something that is apart from the human mind and human ways. You don't know who God is, regardless of how many times you go to church or how much religious training you have. What you do know is your own set of values, which you enthrone and call God and pray to that. And you pray to yourself, and you get the results of praying to yourself. No wonder the world is a mess as far as you're concerned. The world out there would change magically, dramatically, and finally, before your very eyes, if you were to change the kind of a human being you are. Who do you think is looking at the world out there? A terrified human being who looks at it and says, what's the matter with those people out there? The politicians lie to us And they lead us into a psychopathic war, as indeed all wars are. And they don't know what to do about crime. What's the matter with people out there? I ask you tonight, what's the matter with you? I'll tell you what's the matter with you. You're so lazy, so self-righteous, it is incredible. Did you ever think for once in your life, how old are you, 40, 60, 80? Did it ever occur to you for once in your life to look out at that world and have the decency to say, I am what I see, and you are? How you love to divide things in your own favor. You say those crooks out there who wreck the country, of course they're wrecking the country. Those bandits out there who steal your money through taxes and spend it on stupid ideas, stupid things, of course they're wasting your money. And you are permitting it because you want to be in on it. That's the answer, and that's the truth. Let me tell you what people do, and I'm talking to you too. People are gamblers. Not just in gambling states, but they're gamblers psychologically and again pathetically so. They say, if I'm a part of this mad world, just by rare chance I might get more out of it than I put into it. Social Security, let's see. I'm so-and-so age, I'll put in so much, maybe I'll get more. You are the cause of the Social Security being bankrupt practically. You are the cause, but who else is doing it? Who do you think the government is? You think of government, you think of big buildings, you think of certain people who have titles. Who do you think the government is? The government is human beings, and you voted them in, and you agree with them, and you take sides with this politician against that politician. Once in a while, in the history of mankind, a very rare and unique human being appears. This human being looked around at the world he was born into, and he said, there's no way I can go along with that. There's no way I'm going to go along with it. I don't want what this world has to offer. I don't want your Cadillacs. I don't want your office up on top of the 50-story building. I don't want the operas and the social gatherings and the jewelry and the $15 dinners. I don't want the fakery and the masquerade that everyone I see out there puts on. Every once in a while, such a man comes along. There have been a few of them. And they have passed on certain truths to you. And what they say essentially is, sir or madam, if you wish to join me in having nothing to do with this lunatic world, which should have a big wall around it because it's a lunatic asylum, if you wish to join me, I'll tell you how to do it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the message that they have given to the world is being given to you right now. Now, you're asking, of course, and it's all right to ask this. It's a wrong answer in one way and a right one in another. You're asking, okay, I'll go along with what you say so far, but what's there in it for me? Well, I'll tell you what's there in it for you. First, you won't be secretly tormented as you are now. Raise your hands, all of you who are secretly tormented. You might as well all raise your hand and get it over with. You cannot lie here. Did you understand that? That you can't tell a lie here? Even if during the question and answer period one man or woman stands up and tells a lying question, it'll be very obvious to the rest of you. I guarantee you that, if you have an ounce of perception. What there is in it for you is something which you cannot presently understand. But what you can understand is that you don't want any more of your past involvement in the total social structure, the social structure which you have accepted because you believe in some strange way that it makes you feel secure. Do you know what the word charlatan means? You know what the word means? Do you know what the word hypocrite means? I'll tell you something. You can look around at any human being you see anywhere, anytime out in that sick world, and you're looking at a charlatan or a hypocrite in one form or another, whether it's religious or whether it's political or whether it's social. And here is the question. Why don't you have the intelligence to see it? Because you have sold your spirit, you have sold your soul for a few dollars more on payday. You want to behave like an idiot and demand more money, and once you get it, you scream in your ego victory that you now have $80 a week more, which causes more inflation. You don't even have sense enough to see that. Don't you understand that you are the world that you are complaining about? I know you. I know your complaints, and I know your howls, and I know your fears, and you say, why is it so dreadful? Why are they doing this to me? You are doing it to yourself. And if you want to become a true human being who is not self-tormenting, you will see that as a starting fact. How many of you were angry today? Raise your hand. Come on, all of you raise your hand. How many of you hated someone else today? How many of you were jealous today? How many of you sneered at someone today? Shall I go on? Well, isn't that what you saw out in the world today? You saw all that crime, and you better begin to see that all the crime is not physical. It's not someone robbing a bank or mugging someone. Is there one in here, in this room tonight, who can recognize the fact that you, yes, you yourself, are an invisible criminal, that you're a psychological criminal? And I'll tell you what keeps you that way. You don't know you are. You have no idea of the crime you commit against yourself and against everyone you know when you flare up. I want to tell you of a horrible crime. It's called depression. You don't have any conscience at all, do you? You don't have any decency at all, do you? You go around being despondent, being afraid, being confused, and you pass that. You men in this audience, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. And I hope that you're not past shame, because if you are, there's no hope for you. You ought to be ashamed of yourself for what you're doing to that woman in your life. Do you know what you're teaching her? You're teaching your wife or your girlfriend. You're teaching her yourself. And you know what you are. Of course you do. You know how bitter you are. You know how you feel left out. You know how you work that hard to get that education and to get that advancement in employment, and how you wanted to be somebody, and you talked to her about it, how are you going to make it, and finally, and you'd have that new home, and maybe have a boat too, and all those things. And because she didn't know any better, you led her astray. You ought to be ashamed, so ashamed of yourself that you're shocked out of ever doing it again. I'm telling you, men, you are responsible for her. You really are. You have taught her and made her to one degree or another what she is today, and what she is just like you. And she's never really loved you at all. She's been afraid of you. She's feared you because she knows that you don't know. And you haven't had the decency to admit it. You men, you haven't had the decency to admit it and come to this class or read those books out there. You haven't had the decency to say, my God, what have I done to myself and to that woman and to my children and to everyone by being what I am? And you don't even know what I'm talking about. I know you don't. But I'm trying to shock you awake so that you can begin to understand what you've been doing. You've been a lunatic all your life. You've been sound asleep. And you've been dragging everyone down with you. And no one could possibly love you and respect you. And you have the idiotic nerve to go around talking about wanting people to respect you, to hold you in high reputation, to think that you're a nice fella. You have the nerve to do that when you're not capable of being nice, because only truth is nice, and you won't approach it and let it change you. You really want a woman to like you, gentlemen? I mean, naturally and rightly? There's only one thing you can do. Well, there's two things. Now I'll tell you the first one. Give up your mad flight downhill. It's incredible. You've got all that money. You've got all that money, and you've got hatred in your heart. You've got that nice home, and you're going to plant an addition to it and put a swimming pool on it. You idiot. How long do you think you're going to swim in that swimming pool? Your children can hardly wait for you to die so they can inherit it. And in your heart, you know that's true. Oh, what contempt. This is all of you, both you men and women, because you ladies have your responsibility too. Oh, what contempt you have in your heart for yourself. Walking around, looking at yourself, and lying about what you see so you won't have to face the horror of what you are. Tonight, starting tonight, you can start to be a decent human being. This is going to be a brand new experience for you. That's right. Now, the process for changing your nature, changing the way you see everything, including yourself and the world you live in, so that you have no more stupid ambition. The way to do it, as I mentioned before, is known. And I'm going to give you one of those ways. Don't think it is as easy as it sounds. It isn't. But I'm going to give it to you, and I want you to think about it. And you buy this tape, and you go over it many, many times. To set it up for you so you begin to understand it, have you noticed that whenever a challenge comes up to your darling, self-flattering ideas about yourself, have you ever noticed when something comes up to contradict those ideas that you get mad? You get upset when your contradiction in you is exposed. You're supposed to be adequate, for example, or something, and it's proven that you're not, and you get mad. Or someone yells at you, and you yell back, and all of a sudden you catch yourself say, hey, I was supposed to be a nice person. Here I am screaming at the top of my voice. Notice the tendency to always avoid facing what you must face is that this is what happened. You are not, by the way, what happened. You are not that hatred. You are not that anger, but it did take you over, and you identify with it and call it yourself and think it that it is yourself. Now you cover it up. You will learn in these classes, and do attend the classes in Los Angeles, you will learn that there is simply a force, an energy that goes through you that takes you over, but you put an eye onto it and say, I am angry, I am hateful, I am terrible, I am sinful, or I am loving, or whatever. And these are simply labels having no validity to them at all. Now, having set the groundwork a little bit, from now on, when you suffer an ego defeat, how many understand what that means? May I see your hand? Okay, you can understand that, don't you? You know what an ego defeat is. All right. From now on, every single time you suffer an ego defeat, you won't try to escape it. You will stay right with it 100%. Let the pain stay right within you. And like example, someone yells at you, you yell back. From now on, someone yells at you, you don't yell. You won't be able to do it at first because the mechanical machine is so automatic, right? They press a button and off you go, blasting up. It'll take a long time, but you have to start somewhere, and you might as well do it tonight. Don't fail to start tonight. Next time someone yells at you or you get a disappointment, something comes along that you don't like, watch the gradual swelling up of your egotism, ready to lash back. You've suffered an ego defeat from the world. You wanted something, you didn't get it, so now you're going to blast back and get angry, get revenge. And if any of you ever practice revenge again, you are practicing revenge on yourself. Try to see that. So you have the position where you've been insulted and you feel bad and you feel the urge to do something about it. Never, never again ever do anything about your ego defeat. After a few times, like 10,000 times, of practicing this very powerful method, after practicing it many times, you will suddenly jerk up like that and you'll say, I wonder what's happening to me. I don't know what it is, but I sure like it. That boss yelled at me over something, and it was even unjust. I didn't do it, but he thought I did. So he screamed at me, and he snarled at me, and threatened me a little bit. And when he said that, a few years ago, of course I can't yell back at the boss, you'll fire me, right? But I suppressed it, and I'd go into anger and hatred, and my fist would clench. The first thing I did when I get home was unload it on my wife before she can unload her troubles onto me. And that's the way I used to do it. But the boss yelled at me, but because I'm practicing this non-resistance to evil, well, isn't it evil to flare up and get mad? Of course it is. It's practicing non-resistance to it by understanding the futility of fighting anything whatever, because it's the ego that always fights in order to preserve its own self. You will see a very, very gradual at first lessening of the wish to lash out at the world that you think has treated you so unkindly, so unjustly. Little by little, little by little. If you keep yourself right within the pain of it, don't try to escape it, simply watch and see what happens. I absolutely guarantee you that little by little the pain will go away. You are beginning to free yourself of the insanity of the world, the madness of the world. Why? Because you're first freeing yourself of yourself, right? So you finally find out, lo and behold, it wasn't the world that you have to change after all, but yourself and your reactions to it. Do that much. Our time goes so fast. We will take a break now and then come back for questions and answers. We'll take questions in just a minute. Just a minute, please. There are many ways to tell you what you will get out of these classes, and here's one of them. I'll tell you a little story that will illustrate it. About a month ago, one of the men in our Boulder City class, who's been there for 2 or 3 years, he was up in front. We often have people stand up voluntarily to give short talks, so you can stand up in front and see how nervous you are. How many of you don't like to stand up in front of an audience and give a talk? How many of you pretend that you're brave? This gentleman who had come to the class for 2 or 3 years stood up and he said something as follows. All my life, I looked around for answers, wondering what I was all about, where I was going. And I went to a number of places of employment. He was a policeman for a while, insurance man, various employments. And he was going crazy, to use his own terminology. And he expressed it like this. He said, 499 bricks were on my back, burdening me. 499 bricks. And he said, this class prevented the 500th brick from falling on my back and saving my sanity. How many bricks do you have on your back? Has it gone that far, of 499? It's not too late. I'd better tell you, one more brick and it will be. Or don't you know people, relatives of yours, don't you know people you know there's no hope for them? There's no hope for them ever becoming even logical and everyday things. 500 bricks. This class will prevent that 500th brick from falling on your back and crushing you utterly. You know in your heart how serious this is. We will show you how to be rightly serious. You are now wrongly serious. You are gloomy. You are glum. I'm going to tell you something. If you only knew what fun we have in getting rid of the junk. Well, wouldn't you feel good if you had 499 bricks on your back and you were able to drop one of them on Monday, another one on Tuesday, another one on Wednesday? I'll tell you, after a while, your step is going to be a lot lighter. You're not going to have that heavy face anymore and that heavy spirit, which, by the way, you are now in love with. You just stop crying your way through life. Ladies, just stop bawling. That is the one thing that won't be put up with in the classes. You're not going to get away with it. You sit in the corner and bawl in one of our classes, and we'll all applaud you for a marvelous dramatic production. And that's all you'll get out of it. We don't believe in it because we don't believe in it for ourselves. If you think there is any value in being miserable, you'd better rush to the nearest class to get that nonsense out of your mind. Murray, Guy will repeat the questions for the tape and so we can all hear them better. Please raise your hands. Keep them short and to the point. Do not give a speech. Thank you. The gentleman. Yes, the gentleman there.
Mr. Howard, I'd like to ask you a question about emotions. Emotions for me are often parts of my fits of insanity.
Yes.
Why should these natural gifts, emotions, so often work against our growth, and what can I do about it?
Okay, he'll repeat it even if I hear it. Oh.
The question is, why should a natural gift like emotions work against us as they do?
You also have a natural gift called a mind. Why do your thoughts work against you? Because you're undeveloped, and so are your emotions. Tonight, some of you in this room felt proper emotion, right emotion. And I'll tell you which ones you were. Those who were receptive. Those who sat here, and of course it's a little bit shocking and you were yelled at and all that, but those of you who felt the rightness of it, let's see your hands for the fun of it. Who felt the rightness of everything you heard here? You know it's right. That is the beginning of proper emotion. And these right emotions will drive out all the antagonistic ones that are inside you that are driving you crazy. This is all a part of your total development. Your emotions will change. Remember I illustrated a little bit when in the little talk how you're angry at everyone and you want to blow up the world. And this is pure egotism. You see, nobody gives me what I deserve. I'm always shortchanged. And notice that every other word is I. No wonder you're miserable, living with I all the time. We will show you the falsity of calling yourself I at all. It is not necessary. You think it's necessary to your survival. The I is necessary to your death. And that's what you're living in right now with your I. We'll show you how to rise above death. We'll show you how to rise above death and find eternal life. You didn't know that we were that spiritual, did you? You thought you only heard that in churches. Churches do not tell you how to find eternal life. They give you the words, and they leave you with hatred in your hearts. Do you know the people who attack the truth the most of all? The loving Christians. The devils. The gentleman.
This is something I noticed particularly between the two sessions today. There was a big gap of time. During the day there will be actions or decisions. At the same time or immediately after, there's something that expresses dislike or discomfort about many of these.
It's getting pretty long.
Okay. What is that, or who is that?
What was what?
The man wants to know what is it in him that comes up and expresses a dislike or a disdain for certain actions that he does or things that occur during the day.
A choice, and that choice you make in order to enhance your false sense of self. See, you don't know who you are. because you have so many personalities inside of you, and that's the rest of you too. You split personality. You have about 50 splits inside of you, different selves. 1 minute you're loving, the next minute you're hating. Which are you? See, there's already 2 right there. You make a choice out in the world as to how you take a certain event in order to try to believe in yourself. And this is what drives you mad, and the rest of you too, all day long, trying to find things to prove that I'm me. And you have no conscience when you do that. You'll do anything bad, you'll do anything vicious against any other human being in order to try to prove that you're me. You're not me. You don't have to be me. Are you following all this about the I and the self? Are you? If not, work like everything to get it. Your choices are simply based on vanity-feeding purposes. And when you are a free human being, you have no choices whatever. You don't need any choices. Does truth need to choose anything? It is what it is. It's free. It's got it all. And when you're living in truth, you have it all. And then, and listen to this little extra bonus, you will have complete sense in how you spend your money, who you associate with, because it's not a matter of, should I choose this friend or should I get married to this man? You won't be basing it on ego security because you're already secure. You'll know what people to be with and what people to avoid. You'll know where to spend your money. And by the way, you get really hot on these things and you'll increase your income 50% by the simple fact that you don't waste your money as you do it now, and you don't even know how you waste your money. You don't know it. You don't see it. If I was to put it down 1, 2, 3, you wouldn't believe it. You go out and spend money on expensive dinners, for example, and justifying it, well, I deserve a treat and all that. You are the cause of inflation. You people see it right here because you don't even understand how human nature causes human problems. You are the cause of your problems and everyone else's. Hands, please. The gentleman here.
It has been said that truth is a pathless land. Would you comment on what this means, please?
Yes. Thoughts based on yourself, again, on your accumulated self. These thoughts make paths according to what your desire wants. You desire a certain thing. What do you want, gentlemen? You want a woman, you want more money, you want to win the golf tournament, you want certain things. You have all these desires. This is a path. All desires are paths. Truth is pathless in that you don't have, listen to this. Truth is pathless in that you don't have to go anywhere because you're already there. If you're home, do you have to worry about getting home? If you're home, do you have to fight another person in order to get home? If you're home, do you need to worry to have enough money for transportation to get home? When you're home, you're home. Where's the path? See? The second lady there, and then the first lady back. Yes, please.
Yes, my mother passed away recently, and I would like to know, how do you deal with the hurt?
The lady stated that her mother passed away just recently and wants to know, how do you deal with the hurt of that?
Why are you wrongly attached to your mother? Why are memories impinging on your mind? You are a living human being right here in this room right now. Why are you permitting the past to come into this room, into your mind and painting you? Why are you permitting it? You are supposed to live your own life, not the life of memory based on past experiences. Now you see that. And I'll tell you another thing. You have that wrong connection and you have the sorrow with it because you value that sorrow. Give it up. The other lady. The first, please.
I just want to know why the lifespan seems so short.
The lady asked, why is it that we're here, our lifespan seems so short?
It may to you. You know, unfortunately, the human intellect is bound by time, and you never transcend it. How many of you would like to have a life that goes beyond this short little life? How many of you would like to have that? You all would, wouldn't you? And I'll tell you what you're doing, most of you are doing, in fact, practically all of you, if not all of you. You have called your time life eternity. You're doing your best to try to convince yourself that you're going to go on and on forever in your thoughts. See, because where do you get your sense of self? In your thoughts. And so you think as many thoughts as you can all day long. I'm doing something, I'm excited, I've had great sex experiences, I'm a great lover, on and on and on and on. And you build up this self, and you deceive yourself into thinking if you get enough I thoughts that will be so powerful enough to transcend death. Boy, you're going to be surprised. Thoughts cease upon death of the physical body. Who are you going to be? You'd better understand you're going to have a new nature. You're going to have an identity that has nothing to do with the accumulation of your memories, the accumulation of your experiences. I know how difficult this is for you to follow, and it is not easy to explain with words because words themselves are divisive. I say forget the future and live right now, and already I've said a word that indicates time, hasn't it? So it's not easy. But you can be above time in your own mind, in your own spirit, and you'll understand everything that I'm talking about. And you'll see for yourself that words have no meaning at all when it comes to time and comes to eternity. For example, eternity is just a word. You want to live in eternity? Drop time, and you'll know what it is without even referring to the word. You do not live eternal, but your spirit can. Well, I better add something since it comes up at every meeting. I'll add it now. People always ask out of fear, well, if I give up my time life, my conditioned life, my neurotic self, if I give that up, what will replace it? See what you're doing? You want to take your time self, this accumulation, this bundle of junk that you call you want to take time into the future. It won't work. You lay down your life first. You lay down your time life, your false life, and you'll know what eternity is because you'll be living in it. We have to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back for more questions. Just 5 minutes. You can stay in your chair or wander around as you like. All right, raise your hands, please, and we'll continue for a while. The lady here, please. Yes, please, yes.
If a person's soul may have an incurable or crippling disease, I've heard that there's a way that they cannot accept it and it goes away. Would you comment on that?
The lady said that she's heard if a person has an incurable or crippling disease, that there's a way they can just not accept it and it'll go away. Would you comment on that?
Your body is very much connected, of course, with your mind and with the spirit. Now, you listen carefully to what I'm going to tell you because this covers the general matter of health. Why don't you try sometime forgetting your body in a new way? Why don't you try sometime putting every bit of energy that God gave you into waking up? What is this fascination with health and sickness? I'll tell you what it is. It's another tricky attempt on the part of millions of human beings to escape the task of waking up because now they have something to do with themselves, which is to whine and complain and attract sickness. You stop loving physical sickness just as you should stop loving mental sickness. They're all tied in together in one way or another. You have no idea of how you waste your energies, and when you waste them, when your energies are operating wrongly, what do you expect you're going to get? Well, if you use your mental energy wrongly, aren't you going to go crazy? Aren't you going to be an unpleasant person? The very same thing happens when you waste the other energies and they don't go into making your health what it could be. It's a very complex subject. Yes, the gentleman here.
If we begin to understand these principles, how would our daily attitudes change?
If we begin to understand these principles, how would our daily attitudes change?
In a way that you'd never know yourself. And that's what you should aim for, is it not? You know yourself as you now are, don't you? How do you like living with yourself? How many of you like living with yourself? Don't you dare raise your hand. You know what you will be doing when you get onto these things? The most remarkable miracle will happen to you. Listen to this. You will enjoy your own company. You think you enjoy it now. You don't. You enjoy your own neurosis. And there's a big difference in the two. You do. You run around with an idiot half the day. Well, all the day. you'll find it very pleasant. You'll find it very pleasant to either be all alone or with other people. You can handle both quite easily, naturally. There's no problem there. Look how desperate you are for human company, and I don't know why. You figure if you can find someone who will share the world's problems with you, you can just get lost in them together. Why don't you stay home and suffer consciously? Why don't you stay home and see that all your life you've been chasing around? Disconnect your telephone. It'll save you monthly bills besides. You get the point of that, I'm sure. Not literally. How many of you oh, come on, a little confession time. How many of you blab your life away on that telephone? Come on, raise your hand. How many of you blab your life away in your own mind, having an idiot conversation with yourself? You want talking about health, you want headaches, and you want sleepless nights to continue. You continue the way you are. We're telling you, we're telling you not how to repair your nature. There's no way to repair it. We're telling you how to replace it entirely. Now, if that's a mystery to you, the mystery can be solved. But you can't walk out of here and go back to where you were before. A few of you, hopefully a few of you in this room, have just now a little glimpse of light. And that light is going to glow all the time. And at unexpected times it'll come to you. You'll be thinking maybe, well, I'll turn on the TV set. No, I won't. I'll read that chapter over again. And so you don't turn the TV set. You're getting rightly hungry. And you know, do you know? No, you don't know the abundance of the spiritual food that is waiting for you when you get hungry. When you get hungry for truth, not for your neurosis. That's what you're feeding now. All that can change. A few more hands. The lady there.
In referring to Christians and eternal life, you attack them as devils. Can you explain this?
The lady said that in referring to Christians and eternal life, you attacked them as devils. Would you explain that?
Because they are devils. Next question. The gentleman there. Yes, the gentleman. Are you a gentleman?
Well, yeah. You're going to elaborate on it. How do you eliminate a whole lifetime of lazy life condition and impatience?
How do you eliminate a whole lifetime of lazy life conditions and impatience?
Come to every class. I wonder if you have ever quietly gone aside by yourself, shut out the world for a little bit, the world of business and sports and politics and family life. I wonder if you've gone aside all by yourself, all alone, and quietly asked yourself, what is the purpose of my life here on earth? Now, you may have done that right in the midst of this busy world, but the question itself might have frightened you so badly that you didn't pursue it. Let me urge you to begin right now to frankly, honestly, and with a great deal of right anticipation, ask yourself, what is the purpose of my life here on earth? What am I doing here? What's it all about? And the first right thing that will happen to you, if you're really sincere in your inquiry, is that you begin to toss out, very joyfully, toss out all the accumulated purposes that a sick society has given you, and that you fell for, that you accepted, that you piled up in your cupboard, mental cupboard, you will begin to toss out all ideas that you suspect have damaged you instead of putting you on the right path to the purpose of life. Well now, aren't you a little bit suspicious that maybe all that, what you call fun, all that fun, whatever it is, running around, spending your money uselessly, chasing around, what's it for? You have to fill in a lot of blanks here, because you know what your life is like, and you know where it's wasteful. You know where you're doing things that have no point to them. Whatever will you begin to see it? Unless you have a purpose of discovering who you really are, you're wasting your life. As simple as that. Oh, but the disguises we wear, and we'll get to that in a little bit. I'm going to summarize for you the real purpose of life, and when I say it, I want you to do something special. I'm going to ask you to do a little work here this afternoon. I'm going to tell you the true purpose of life, and I want you to be aware of your reaction to what I say. It's not enough just to hear the words, but I want you to see how you respond to what I tell you. It's very important that you do this. And when we're through with it, I'll comment on it. Ladies and gentlemen out there, your real purpose of life is to get home before dark. Well, how did you respond to that? I'll tell you how you responded if you don't know. And every single one of you in this room, you had a certain sense that that was true. And you know why you had that response? You did, whether you were aware of it or not. The reason you had that response is because you know that you're stumbling around in the darkness of society, stumbling around in the darkness of your own mind, not really knowing what it's all about or what you're supposed to be doing. Now, listen to me. Because I know how your minds work, every single one of you here. It's not shameful to admit that you're lost, which you are. That's not shameful. That's called, that word, do you ever hear the word? That word is called honesty. That's being true, that's being sincere in seeing what your actual condition is, because unless you see what the sickness is, how can you ever welcome the cure? Ladies and gentlemen, human beings in the number of 4 million who are all mentally sick, yes, mentally sick, spiritually sick, isolated, shut off from reality, are all making one great mistake. And I want to go into this mistake quite in detail for you. Several mistakes, but 2 or 3 in particular. First of all, a little illustrative story. 2 men were on an airplane traveling together. They were strangers. They were thrown together accidentally on the same airplane, the same seat. And one of them was quite nervous and agitated. He wanted to talk. And the other man, we'll call him the silent man, was just sitting there quietly observing the agitated man and wondering what it was all about. And the nervous man started to talk. He started to blab. And what he told the silent man was what a problem he had. And he said, you know how people fall into conversation on a plane. He said, my problem is we have suspected that up in Alaska there's a vast area of gold that no one's ever run across before, but we're quite sure it's there. But it's in such a complicated area way out there in the wilderness that we need a mining expert, a gold mining expert, to come up and show us how to go about extracting the gold out of the ground. And the man went on and on and on about how important it was to find the gold for the national economy and all that, while he was really, of course, talking about his own pocketbook. He went on and on about how he wanted to find the gold and how difficult it was to find a man who could qualify as an expert and help him to get it out. And so he blabbed and blabbed for the entire flight. And the airplane landed at the airport, and both men nodded friendly at each other and went their separate ways. And the silent man got into the car with his wife, and he recounted to her the little incident with the talkative man. And when the silent man had told his wife what it was all about, his wife said, "Well, isn't that strange? There he was, sitting right next to a gold mining expert, the very man he wanted. Why didn't he ask you? Why didn't you have a conversation in which you told him that you were the very man he wanted?" And the silent man said, "I couldn't. He just wouldn't stop blabbing." You think that doesn't apply to you? I'm not talking necessarily about talking with your lips and your tongue. I'm asking you about the state of your mind. Shall I be a little more blunt about it? Doesn't your mind drive you crazy, and now don't you lie about it? Don't you sit in this room this afternoon and lie about it. You've been doing that all your life. Now is the time to start being honest. Now is the time to see that you are indeed lost. Now is the time to indeed see that you're not heading for home at all. You're just going somewhere and you don't know where. Isn't that a terrible state to be in? Rushing somewhere. Where are you rushing to? The ball game? The liquor cabinet? The sexual experiences? Where are you rushing to? Your daydreams? Where are you rushing to? Your delusory religious ideas in which you think you already have it made, and so you don't need anything or anyone but the words called God or the Bible. May heaven help you. All you've got is the words, and you have no direction at all. Well, I have described you accurately, and we both know that. So what are we going to do about it? We have a tremendous problem in front of us. Not insurmountable. It can be done. You can find your way home. Oh, by the way, I better tell you, to find your way home, you have to find a different kind of a home. Your destination right now, being goaded on by your own neurosis, by your own preference for an excitement, for a preference for arguing, for having your own way. When you reach home, I'll tell you what you're going to find there. You're going to find yourself. Now, isn't that a miserable prospect? To go all that journey, to take all those drinks, to get all those women, to get all that money, to get all that excitement, to take all those trips, and at the end of it, you find yourself right back with yourself again. Isn't that horrifying? I'm afraid it isn't to you, because you're not aware that you always go into a circle, and the next book you read is going to do it, or the next romance you have, or the next change in your husband or your wife, that's going to do it. It never does it, does it? So at the very start of this afternoon, we have things very, very clear. And isn't that a marvelous condition to be in? That already, in just a few minutes so far, we have seen what is wrong with us, which is that we lie about everything, calling it the truth. So the obstacles are many, and I want to discuss one of them in detail with you right now. And I want you to go real slowly with me. I'll go slowly myself so that we can go over it many times and in many different ways. Here it is. A great single obstacle to an individual knowing himself, understanding what life is all about, is, listen, here's the key thought, and you remember this, is his unseen pretense that he already understands. Now, every one of you in this room, including the lady who just walked out, every one of you in this room are in this state. And you, like the lady who just walked out, have the same resistance to what you've been hearing so far this afternoon, and also to the particular statement that your single greatest problem, which is a part of egotism, is your unseen pretense that you already have it made. Here you are hurtling downhill 100 miles an hour, and you have it made. What you have is excitement joined with imagination, which tells you that everything is all right, and so you hate, how's this for being on the way home? And so you hate the truth, which tells you that you're going in the wrong direction. How is that? Let's look at that one a little bit closer. Let's look at the pure insanity of any human being who hates, who fights the truth, which says, sir, madam, you are mad. You're going in the wrong direction. Please, let us show you the right direction so that you won't suffer from the way you're suffering right now by being in the wrong direction. When you're traveling in the desert, that's pretty dry out there. And you're pretty thirsty, aren't you? So how would you? All right, I'll leave it to you. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave it to you. How would you describe a human being who is told the shocking truth, and it is shocking to our ego, you know that. How would you describe a man or a woman who gets angry and runs out? This walkouts all the time, sick people. It happens all the time, so don't be surprised if more of you get walk out, because it's going to get tougher as we go along, see? It gets tougher because it gets more compassionate. Can you see the connection between the two? Okay. How would you describe a man or woman who hates being told that he's not only wrong but has been all his 30, 40, 80 years? How would you describe a man who hates that? How would you describe a man who goes to the physical situation? Man goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, you're pretty ill, sir, but we have just the medicine that'll cure you. And the man hates the doctor for telling him he has medicine. Wouldn't you call, well, let's try a few descriptions. Insane? How about stupid? How about ignorant? How about self-defeating? How about foolish? I'll add another one. This may shock some of you, and I hope it does. How about blasphemous? Oh, you didn't realize we were talking about God, truth, reality this afternoon? Well, I better tell you that we are. We're talking about true spirituality, about much higher realms than you now know. We're talking about God. Let's put it that simple. Now, the world is loaded with religious hypocrites, and they seem to be increasing, by the way, from what I see on television and in the newspaper. The world is loaded with them who do not want the truth, who despise the truth, and say they're lovers of God and of the Bible. They walk out of these meetings. If there are any of you born-again hypocrites in here, you're going to be very miserable for the rest of this meeting. And if any of you so-called born-again Christians get up and walk out, I'll tell you where you're walking to. You know where you're walking to? You're walking right into yourself. And yourself is hell. You're walking right back into hell. And the first thing you'll do is find a bunch of other so-called Christian hypocrites like yourself, so you can all get together and lie and comfort each other and hate. So you can get together and huddle and hate. How's that for being a Christian? All right. Look at it again. A major difficulty that any human being has in finding the truth is the unseen belief that he already has it. And I've just described one branch of that religious hypocrisy. I want you to look very carefully with me right now at one single word in that sentence. Unseen. And let's get some synonyms for that. Unseen means unconscious. Unseen means you don't know what is there. You don't know your hatreds, for example. You don't know your self-righteousness. You don't know that you're living from mere labels about yourself as being a person who is adequate and kind and loving. You're living from mere labels. But if you have a label at all, that means that the reality behind the label is not there. How many of you, don't raise your hand please, you might get too embarrassed. How many of you go around calling yourself loving, compassionate, kindly, gentle? Raise your hand to yourself, not physically. Don't you understand that that's the very thing that prevents you from being a decent human being? When you have it, you don't have to talk about it. It's when you don't have it and imagine you have it and it's unseen and unconscious that you have to keep convincing yourself, look how loving I am. And you waste all your stupid money on greeting cards. You waste all your money on stupid greeting cards. That was a better word. All because you have not faced the fact of yourself as, here's another key word, and this should make you very happy. You have not, well, the whole talk should make you, hasn't it made you happy so far? I see some doubts out there. Well, we're through. There are many things inside of you which you don't see, but you have what is called identified with them. That is, you take these negativities as being you. Now, a person sees he has no real love in him, okay, no real love. So he says, society says I'm supposed to love everybody. Okay, so he takes the word and he writes it in letters and he thinks about it and he goes to church and talks about how much he loves truth and all that. Now, as I said, the very fact that you have to do that proves that you don't have it. Now, here's the problem. All the negativities that you have inside of you, which are negativities called hatred, called anger, all these, if anyone calls them to your attention and you look and see that you are indeed a religious hypocrite, then it pains you. Now, the reason it pains you is because you believed in the label. You believed in what you called yourself, and you were not what you called yourself. If you'd have the courage to see that you were not the label, not what you say that you're loving, if you see that you are not that, now you are out of it altogether, and now you are loving. But it isn't you. Now, you're completely baffled. I know that. There's no way you can understand what I'm talking about. You have to come back here hundreds of times. You have to study. You have to read the books. I'll go through it once more. I know you don't understand, and I'll tell you why you don't understand. You can only understand from a mind that is truly spiritual, for a mind that is above all the labeling processes, from a spirit that simply understands that it doesn't have to be anything. It doesn't have to be anyone according to your own demands of your own neurotic mind. See, society is so sick, it makes everybody else sick. Your parents told you you had to be loving. All right. Your parents and the rest of society said you had to be loving, right? Okay. Were they? The sick advising the sick. You lived in that home. You were a 5-year-old child. You were a 10-year-old boy or girl. You were a 15-year-old boy and girl. You know what went on in that home. Wouldn't it be marvelous, ladies and gentlemen? Wouldn't it be marvelous if you would be the one to break the pattern? You know, your grandparents did it to your parents. They did the very same thing. And your parents did it to you, and your brothers and your sisters. They did it to you. Why don't you be the one to stop it so that you don't pass it on to your children or on to your wife or on to your husband? So we have to find some way to see ourselves as we presently are in order to go beyond it. And I'll give you a marvelous method for doing that. For the rest of your life now, this is a lesson for the rest of your days. I want you to look at yourself, and I want you to see what you are like at any given moment during the day. Any 24 hours, you look inside and you say, what am I like right now? Now the second part of that little exercise is what I see good or bad for me. It's so simple and so workable. Let's go over it again. For the rest of your life, this is a marvelous spiritual adventure. You just stop wherever you are. You're talking with someone, something comes up, they say something that doesn't please you very much, and you start to see yourself getting resentful, angry, or whatever. Now you look at that inside of yourself and you say, okay, I see hatred toward that person starting to well up inside of me. Okay, now you've seen it. Okay so far? Now, question. Is hatred good or bad for you? Now, is there anyone in this room who thinks hatred is good for you? Anyone? Do all of you agree that hatred is a bad thing? All right. Now we've established that. See, you can't get out of it here. You've lied all your life. You can't lie here. The truth will trap you, and that's marvelous. Always let the truth trap you so it can smash your lies. Now you see that hatred is a bad thing. Listen to this. Who's it bad for? First of all, who's it bad for? Look, when you're in hatred, you're insane. Do you want to be insane or sane? When you're in hatred, you're destroying your powers to think clearly, even in ordinary matters. Don't you know, look out at the world. The average person can't do the average thing right. The simplest of things. And I'll give you an example I used before. Our time is going fast, but I give you a marvelous school. The school is called the checkout line at the supermarket. The next time you get in line, you watch how people in front of you behave. Watch how they're depressed. Watch how they're jittery. They're clapping, pushing their hands back and forth. And watch how everyone blabs to the checker because they have no one else to talk to. Watch the whole human drama right in those 5 hours that you're in that line. Seems like that, doesn't it? The average human being is as batty as a bat. I'm not talking about spirits. I'm thinking he doesn't have an ounce of sense in everyday things. He doesn't have enough sense to get his money out, to put his items out with the prices toward the checker. He doesn't have enough sense to shut his mouth and not blab to everyone around to cause a distraction. He doesn't have any sense in the simplest. You will watch it. And this is the smallest of things. Wait till you get to the big things. Boy, are you going to be shocked. Well, you watch yourself in that marvelous school called the checkout line at the supermarket, and you'll see for yourself. All right, one final thing, and then we'll have a break for a while. Here it is, set right in front of you. The rock of truth right in front of you. You want to try to destroy it, or do you want to simply accept it? Illustration. There's a big rock out in the desert, and for some neurotic reason, a man hates it. Maybe it associates with something bad that happened to him in the army or whatever. So he hates the rock. So he goes out, and first he tries to curse it away. He wants to get rid of it, like people want to get rid of the truth. He tries to curse it away. The rock is solid. He tries to imagine it. It's not there. The rock stays there. He tries to dynamite it. Physical violence in society. He tries to dynamite it, and the rock stays there. You know what finally happened to the man? They haul him away to the nut house for fighting truth. Truth is the rock, for fighting it, trying to destroy it. You listen to me. You're not going to succeed with your lies anymore. And from now on, you're going to be even more bothered because you've been told the truth. You'll never be able to forget what you've heard there this afternoon. You'll never forget it. You may fight it. Why am I saying this? To tell you that you're not going to win, that you don't have to win in the way you think you do. You do not need ego victories. You don't need people to admire you. You don't need to be a leader among men. You know what you need to be, ladies and gentlemen? You need to be a simple, plain, honest, good human being who can no longer hurt either himself or anyone else. Now, the problem is, all your evil that you do to others is unconscious, unseen. I went through that and tried to get it through your heads. Maybe we succeeded, maybe not. Now, one final thing, and then we'll stop. You can't destroy the rock of truth. Forget it. You'll destroy yourself. I want all of you to think very carefully about the reactions that you've had this afternoon during the talk. I want you to see if you felt threatened by what you heard. That was your ego that felt threatened and nothing else. You want to be somebody, you don't have to be anyone. You want to be someone, you want people to respect you. You want people to like you and think that you know what life is all about. You don't, or you wouldn't be in this hall here. You came here because you don't know. Every one of them. There are no exceptions whatever. Don't think you're the exception. You're not. You're lost. I'm trying to point out the fact that you don't even know what hostilities and hatreds you have toward the truth. And if you want the truth to be on your side, to deliver you from yourself, then you're going to have to recognize that you are living from 1,000 false assumptions. Truth itself can deliver you from those assumptions and put you on its side, and you have no idea of what a relief it'd be. You're so nervous, aren't you? You're so stressful. You're worried about your income. You're worried about your prestige, about wanting to build your business or whatever. You're driving yourself crazy. everything you've heard today has been beautiful, has been marvelous for you and healthy for you because it's been the truth. Now, it is up to you what you do with it. Please don't try to destroy the rock. You will destroy yourself in the process of trying to do it. But try to understand what truth is, and it will help you to understand. It's here right now. Do you know that truth is in this room right here now? I know it, and you sense it. All of you sense it, and this is why a lot of you resisted it. It's the sensing. Understand? The sensing of it aroused the resistance. Let truth rescue you from everything, and when you're on the other side of it, you'll thank heaven that you came here today and heard the truth. Not me, but heard the truth. Do take a break. How many of you can take it? May I see your hands? How many of you can take it? All right. How many of you want to begin to take it? All right, you'll get it. When's the last time some of you laughed? It's been a long time, hasn't it? As Murray said, you take yourself so seriously, and you take yourself seriously because you take yourself as being real, and you're not. You're a fake. You're an artificial person taking yourself as real. No wonder you go around gloomy. All right. I'm going to read something to you that will require your cooperation, something that I've written. And I'm going to read it tonight, too. Pretty powerful stuff, strong stuff. You'd be worth buying the tape just for what's on it next. So I'll show you what to do as we go along. This little reading that I'm going to give you is called Perfect Logic. That's the title of it. Perfect Logic. And in the end, you'll see how correct the title is. Now, what I'm going to do is ask you a series of simple, right-to-the-point questions, and I want your actual response. Just speak out, please, to the questions. Would you do that, please? All right. Perfect logic. Can a person have deep hatreds and violence in himself and not see and admit it? Can he? Yes. You know the answer is yes, don't you? All right. Next question. Can this hatred and violence ever come from God? No. Okay. Therefore, since this hatred cannot come from God, where must this hatred and violence come from? From the devil and hell? I'm leading you in that question to keep the thing together. From the devil and hell, is that correct? Yes or no? Let's try that one again. Therefore, since this hatred cannot come from God, where must this hatred and violence come from? From the devil and hell? Right, and you know it. Fourth question. Therefore, a person with unseen and unadmitted hatred and violence in him is possessed by the devil and hell, not by God and goodness. Correct? Right. Perfect logic so far? Absolutely, and you know it. That too. The fifth question. To repeat, regardless of what a hater says about himself, he is actually a devil-possessed human being. Correct? All right. Sixth, therefore, being devil-possessed, he is a hater of God and an enemy of everything that is truly good and decent. Right? And last, you better listen to this, some of you haters out there, some of you devils out there. You think I don't know you? I knew you before you even came into this room. That's how well I know you. Let's read the last one. Therefore, the only thing to do with a devil in human form is to leave him or her alone to burn in the hell of his own hatred and hypocrisy. Right? You think you're ever going to reform a devil who prefers to remain a devil? I'm going to read it once more, and you need not respond this time. Perfect logic. Can a person have deep hatreds and violence in himself and not see and admit it? Yes. Can this hatred and violence ever come from God? No. Therefore, since this hatred cannot come from God, where must this hatred and violence come from? From the devil and hell. And the devil's right here. This is hell for most people, this earth. You understand that? Therefore, a person with unseen and unadmitted hatred and violence in him is possessed by the devil and hell and not by God and goodness. Correct? Correct. To repeat, regardless of what a hater says about himself, he is actually a devil-possessed human being. Correct? Correct. Therefore, being devil-possessed, he is a hater of God and an enemy of everything that is truly good and decent. Right? Right. And last, therefore, the only thing to do with a devil in human form is to leave him or her alone to burn in the hell of his or her own hatred and hypocrisy. Right? Right. Buy the tape for that alone. $6. You pay $6 for tacos. 2 tacos. All right, 2 questions that were written, and they're both very good questions, so I'll read them aloud. As I study myself, I see my values changing. At the same time, I observe the stagnation of my family. I have less and less desire to tolerate their nonsense, but feel guilty about breaking off completely. Please comment. I'll tell you what will help you. Your family and your other relatives, you're in physical contact with them, and that's what bothers you. You're not quite sure whether you should accept the invitation to dinner or whatever other nonsense they have planned for you so they can sit and talk about themselves. Don't think about physical disengagement from them. Forget the physical at all. Don't wonder whether you should go to their house or not go to their house, or whether you should talk to them or get involved in business with them. Don't think about the physical part at all, the social part. Think only of inner detachment. When you go all the way with this inner work, you detach yourself 100% inwardly from your relatives. You can do that living in the same house, living in the same room, living in the same bedroom with your wife or husband. You can do it. You can be completely spiritually detached from them. Then a miracle will happen to you. Then you will know exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it, to detach yourself physically from them. Is that clear to you, the person who put the note up? I'm sure you'll understand what I'm talking about. Forget the physical. Go ahead. You're associated with them now. Go ahead and do that. Never do anything by an act of your will, by saying, I'm never going to see you anymore. It has to come from the heart. And when you say from the heart, I don't want to see you anymore, that is truth saying it. Because truth in you wants nothing to do with the darkness in your stupid relatives. And they are stupid. And they're destructive. Is your physical presence helpful to receptive individuals in seeing deeper and more completely unto themselves? That is, the physical versus your books. Yes, the physical is quite necessary because the Spirit of truth does not pass through a book, obviously. You can sense that. It only passes through the intellect. When you read the books out there, they pass through your mind, but the Spirit is not there. The Spirit passes through a living human being. So it is very important. And the very fact that whoever asked that question, the very fact that the lady or gentleman who asked that did ask it, means that you sense the necessity and the beauty of the spiritual coming through the physical in the form of a human being. The physical is extremely important, especially if you want to go all the way. You'll feel an attraction to someone who knows the truth. If you want the truth. If you hate the truth, you'll want to run away as fast as you can, as did the people who disappeared during the break. They are now closer to the cliff than they were before. The rules are for hands. Please raise your hands and make it short, clear, to the point. Don't mention your favorite teacher or guru, but confine it to what we're talking about here. And Guy will repeat your question so that I can understand it clearly, and it'll get on the tape too. Hands of anyone, please. The lady over there.
Define God.
Can you define God for me?
God is the absence of you. Next question.
This week in this atmosphere with you, and it's been a week unlike anything in my life, and I find I don't want to go back into the world. Can you talk briefly about using the world to be free of it?
Statement first, question. He said that this week at all these talks has made him very, very reticent to go back into the world. Can you talk about using the world to be free of the world?
Oh, look. Use the world for all it's worth. If you have a grouchy, mean boss, what an opportunity. How many of you have grouchy, mean boss? How many of you are grouchy to the boss? Now you got two things to work on, right? One of the key methods for waking up, for being a different kind of a person, is to use every single experience that comes to you. And you've had a lot of them already since we started this meeting, because if you could have watched your reactions to them, you could have seen the difference between the right ones and the wrong ones. You could have sifted the two and see who was responding to what you heard, whether the small part of you that wants the truth or the giant part of you that is still afraid that the truth is going to take something away from you. Whatever condition you are in right now is the place for you to work, to use. And here's a typical perfect example of why you must come to the classes and listen to the tapes and read the books, because you don't know what it means yet. You really don't know what it means to use every experience. It will be explained to you. Every time you go there, you ask them, how do I use the world? They'll tell you. You use the world by seeing how it's got you, how you think you have all this vanity, and you think that you're an independent thinker and you can conquer everyone, and you see that you're a scared little child. Yeah, literally, you're a scared little child inwardly. Come to the class and they'll explain all these questions, but in summary, use everything that comes to you. Don't waste it. You get angry and you get furious and you hate someone. All right, when you cool down, when you get home, ask yourself, why did I flare up into hatred? And then someone could explain it to you, maybe because you thought your ego was in danger. You thought they were going to take something away from you. You call yourself brilliant, intelligent, that you understand politics of the world. And something comes along that proves that you're a complete idiot. Be grateful for seeing what you really like. And then you can go on from there. Next question, please. The gentleman there.
How do you give up psychological dependence?
The question is, how do you give up psychological dependence?
Dependence, well, when you see that you're leaning on someone else, you will also see that there's a great deal of resentment, great deal of pain in there. And let me tell you, that feeling is very important for you to understand, because it is trying to tell you, sir or madam, you are not living your own free life. Now look, I am talking about absolute, complete interdependence, not dependence on the car mechanic who fixes your car or the baker, things like that, obviously. I am talking about spiritual independence in which no one can give you anything. Nobody can give you anything because you already have it. Now, if you already have it in the spirit of truth, are you going to go around asking people what to do? You will know from yourself. If this is a mystery to you, which it is, come to the classes until you understand. You cannot do it on your own. It is very dangerous. I'll say it 2 or 3 ways. It is dangerous, it is hazardous, it is stupid, it is foolish for you to think that you can go home and sit in your room and just read the books or listen to the tapes. I'll tell you what's going to happen to you. I'll predict, and it's an absolute right prediction. You're going to go into imagination that you're going in spirituality, and you'll become a metaphysical religious hypocrite. You'll think that you've got it. You think that you'll understand. It's very dangerous. You come to the classes and you'll be told how wrong you are. You'll be insulted left and right. See, you won't go to classes because you're afraid of that, and you stay home. I warn you, you're going to become harder and go over that cliff staying home just reading the books. You'll become a parrot. Go out and let these men insult you because they're doing it for a compassionate purpose, whether you understand it or not. And eventually dependency disappears. The gentleman back there.
How does one overcome a particular type of outburst due to misunderstanding?
How does one overcome particular type of outbursts due to a misunderstanding?
When you have an outburst, it's because you think you are losing something. You have a certain idealistic image about what you are. You're strong, you're intelligent, you really know what you're doing. Someone challenges that and said you're very foolish. You now fear a loss of your mere picture. It's your own idea that's all being lost. If you see that, You'll understand that the picture of yourself being competent, wise, and always votes the right way on voting day and all that, if you see that it's only a picture, you will also see that it's not you. You will also see how it has been tormenting you to have to protect the mere picture all your life. No more than you had a photograph up there and you put it on the wall and you would just stand guard with a shotgun against people who wants to steal your picture. It's exactly what happens. When you see that you are not the picture at all your problems will vanish now and for eternity. I guarantee you that. The gentleman here. Announce. No.
We have time for one more question, and then it'll be 3:55, so.
Short and to the point.
Yeah. You said that it's time to break the pattern of a sick society which is influencing us. I don't like to...
Short and to the point. Ask a question. Don't give a speech.
How can I escape the lunatic society by going to a New Age community founded on your teachings?
The man wants to know, how can he escape the lunatic asylum by going to a New Age center founded by your teachings?
It's not founded by me, it's founded by truth. Come and see what an idiot you all are. See that you lie about everything. See how you hate what you've heard here today. See how you want to argue against it. And see how that argument is killing you. If you get a glimpse of that, then you'll be a candidate for the class. See, egotism always argues against the truth. It wants to say, I am right and you're wrong. You're going over the cliff, ladies and gentlemen. What you've heard today will stop you. Okay, the time is on.